Well, thank you. Obviously, my name is Chris Williams. I'm the Technical Director here at FSA. I obviously want to talk a little bit about player development, and obviously player development in terms of it being a holistic approach in terms of how we interact with players and also how we develop players within our club as well. I want this to be more of a discussion base, so towards the end of the session we'll have an opportunity to ask questions and we can talk, and obviously we can go over a variety of different things. But first and foremost, what to expect during the end of the presentation, so clarity upon completion of the presentation. One, what is player development? Two, what is our club's philosophy on player development? Okay. How can we help with player development? Who is responsible for player development, and what can we do to improve player development? Okay, so those are obviously a couple of things that we want to discuss and obviously want to talk about today. So what is player development? So player development, in a nutshell, really simple, is the journey of an athlete takes with their coach/program towards improving performance. So in soccer, the way we do that is obviously by the four elements or the four pillars of the game, which is the technical aspect, the physiological aspect, the psychological aspect, and the tactical aspect too, and the social in there too as well. So those are the four pillars of the game. Okay, so that's obviously the player development and what player development is going forward. So our club identity. So this is how we develop our players, or develop the person, if you like, in a holistic approach. One, we want to develop the player. Okay, so for us, our development philosophy as a club is to develop the individual. In the four moments of the game, or the four components, which is the technical, tactical, physical, and psychological, and provide an opportunities for players to grow on the field and also off the field as well. We want to, as part of our club, is not only develop the player but develop the person. We want to create young people who have good characteristics and traits that succeed not only on the soccer field. I think we understand as parents and as coaches as well, and administrators, that we're not going to have 15 to 20 players every 2 years go and play at the elite level, at the professional level. I think we understand that. So it's so important for us that, okay, well, what else are we providing these athletes? Okay, what is it we're providing them? Are we providing them an opportunity to be successful human beings? And that's exactly what we want to try and do as part of our club as well. We want them to have the value of hard work, togetherness, integrity, respect, responsibility, and have a growth mindset. Those are the things that we want to develop in our players as people. We also want to develop the club as well. Obviously, we want to work together as coaches, players, and parents to create our club that we're proud of. Okay, I think we've made drastic changes over the year and a half that I've been here, for the good. I really do believe that. We have structures in place, we have philosophies in place, we have curriculums in place, which I think is only going to help our players make it to the next level and develop them not only as people but as players as well. And also, obviously, we want to develop the future as well. So we want to try and create a pathway for our players to be successful in all walks of life. So ultimately, creating a better future not only for our club but obviously for our community as well. So what is our mission statement? So the FSA mission statement is FSA is committed to developing each player as an individual. We will strive to create a culture of excellence both on and off the field, and we will develop our club, our community, and we will create a pathway for future players to be successful in all walks of life. And I love this quote by Johan Cruyff, who is the famed Dutch coach and player, coached at Barcelona, and also played there too. But teams don't learn, individuals within a team learn. So development is a personal process, even when conducting in a team environment. So the reality is why do we want to develop the individual? Is the big question. Why can't we develop a team, if you like? Well, first and foremost, each person is different. So as coaches and administrators, we have to look at that and say, okay, well, each person is extremely different, has a unique fingerprint, if you like. Okay, we're all very different, and we all have different needs. Not one person is the same. So because we understand that, we need to develop them in that way. So we need to understand what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are. If we look at it from a psychological aspect, you can look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which I'm sure Buddy knows all about, and John Wooden's pyramid of success, where we talk about if the basic needs are not met of a player, and the basic needs meaning food, shelter, water, etc., if those needs are not met, how can we expect them to develop into fantastic soccer players? We can't, right? And part of our job as coaches and administrators, and a club as a whole, is understanding players within our club and saying, okay, having that connection with a player and that trust in a player, and seeing what a family structure's like, seeing where they're struggling, seeing where are their basic needs are met. I know that there are players within our club, right, whose basic needs are not met, right? So how can we expect them to come onto a training field and give their absolute best when they don't bring water to practice, right? They don't bring a snack for afterwards, okay? These are all small things, but they have a huge impact on the player's development. Huge, huge impact. As coaches, obviously, we need to analyse the player's abilities and provide a development plan for each particular athlete. And why is that? Because everybody is different, okay? My development plan will be completely different to somebody else's development plan, yeah? Their development plan will be completely different to somebody else's development plan. And as coaches and administrators, we need to analyse that and understand that, and can we create a personal, individual development plan that's going to help them, okay, help the individual become a better soccer player and a better person as well. I love this analogy. Rome wasn't built in a day. Something this beautiful doesn't just pop up into existence, okay? I think oftentimes we can get frustrated with a player's ability, and as parents, administrators, and as a club, I think we can get frustrated, right? Why is Johnny Jones better than Peter at this age, right? Why isn't my child as good as this child? Okay? As I said, every single player is an individual, completely different. And some players excel at younger ages, and others excel later. There was a fantastic study done by Premier League, well, by the Premier League now in the UK, and they talked about the pathway is, once they get to 18, clubs then make a decision as to whether or not they want to sign a professional contract. And what studies have shown now is that the brain development in athletes, it doesn't mature until 22, 23, 24. So what's happening is these professional clubs are making these decisions on players at 18 years of age, saying he doesn't have a good understanding of the game. That's why we're not going to offer him a contract. And what they've realised is they're losing out on some great players, because players, when they get to 22, 23, seem to be excelling, and they then move on to play at higher levels or better environments. So what the clubs are doing now is they're offering extra years, especially in the Premier League, in those elite performance environments. So instead of making decisions at 18, they make decisions now at 20, 21, right? Because players mature at different ages. So someone like Wayne Rooney, for example, has matured a lot sooner, made his debut at 17, whereas somebody like, for example, a player who plays at Liverpool now, is on loan at Derby County, someone like Harry Wilson, okay, who's a young player who's coming through and is 22 years of age, okay? So he'll be given an opportunity later on. So we have to realise that as far as development goes, each person is different for one, and we develop at different rates and at different levels as well. So as a club and as parents, administrators and coaches, we have to understand this in order for our athletes to develop. So if we go back to the Rome analogy for me for 1 second. So talking about the principles of player development now. So for me, it's about the 5 P's, which is patience, painting, person, practice, and produce. Okay, and those for me are the 5 principles of development when it comes to soccer. Patience, obviously we talked about, we're all different. We all have different needs at different times. As coaches, we need to understand that, and we need to cater to those needs of the player. How can we develop this player as an individual in our environment? Okay? And those are the constant questions that we have to ask ourselves as coaches. Painting. Be an artist. Okay? And being an artist as a coach and a player is about creativity. Right? It's about allowing players to express themselves in an environment. And it's also about the coaches expressing themselves as well in session design as well. So again, can coaches put on a session that is going to really enhance maybe 3 or 4 players' individual development for that particular practice? And in the next practice, can we then create a session as an artist to say, right, can we really focus on these 4 players now, or these 2 players, these 1 players? Okay? And what you find is over a period of time where you've poured into this one particular athlete over a 3 or 4 week period, that player then is developing and is getting better. Okay? So we need to be creative as coaches in our session design, and we need to allow our players to be creative as well. The third one, person. So the individual. So the person is the biggest factor. And as coaches, and again, I'm relaying this a lot to coaches because obviously a lot of coaches in here. But what can we do for the player? Okay? And that's a question that we have to ask ourselves every time we step onto the field. What is it we can do for every single player? So I think we have an obligation as coaches to make every player feel special. Okay? Every time a player arrives to training, I think we should see a sign on the forehead of every player that says, make me feel special today. Okay? And that could be a high five. How's school? Oh, good, yeah, I got an A. Great job, well done, you know. Just those small things can make a huge difference in the confidence, okay, of a player, okay? The best thing in the world, I think Alex Ferguson said it, the best thing in the world is to hear that you've done a great job, right? There's nothing better. It makes you feel great, doesn't it? It makes you feel great as a person. Okay, you've done a great job today, well done. You know, and I think as coaches, we need to make our players feel special, okay? And what that does, it creates a connection, okay? It creates a connection with the coach to the player, and it creates a confidence within our athletes. And I think we all know that when we're confident as a person or as a player, we express ourselves more, we do more, okay? We've played the game in here. When I feel confident, okay, and I know that if I'm in the attacking third and I go and express myself and I'm creative, and I know that the coach is not going to shout at me for losing the ball, guess what? I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it again and again and again. And I think it's providing that confidence and providing that opportunity to make them feel special every single time we step onto the field is a critical part of development, okay? A critical part. Practice. As players and as a coach, we need to practice. As coaches, it's individual development. It's reading. It's research. It's session design. Okay, it's constantly re-evaluating. Okay, or evaluating your session every time that you finish a session. Was it good? Yes. No. Okay. No, it wasn't. Okay. What could I have done better? Okay. Why did I do this training session? Okay. And once you have the why, again, everything else becomes easy. But it's so important that self-reflection as a coach is critically important, and also self-reflection in the players as well. Are we challenging our players by saying, did you do a good job today? Yeah, I did a good job. What could you have done better? I could have done X, Y, Z. Brilliant. Next time, I want you to do this. Okay? And as coaches, I think we have an obligation to challenge our players in that respect. Okay? And we need to push our players to say, okay, we have a training session, and this is only in a 7-day week, say for example. They have 2 training sessions. We don't want you to just play for 2 training sessions a week. You know, in the UK growing up, how we'd get all our repetition would be out in the streets and playing. okay? And we understand that we live in a generation now, unfortunately, where that doesn't happen a lot, right? I think we're all in a generation now, we're all part of a generation where we'd go outside and we'd go out in the morning at 9 a.m. and we wouldn't come back until the street lights came on. That was my reality, right, as a person. That was my reality. We'd go out and we'd play. My mum would give me $1 and say, there you go, off you go. Get yourself a drink or get yourself something to eat. You know, off you go. Okay? That's not our reality right now. You know, unfortunately, that's not it. So we have to, as coaches, we have to realize that, okay? And we have to understand that, okay, if that's not our reality, where we get to touch the ball 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 times every single day, right? Because that was our reality. That's not the reality of these players that we're developing right now. So our sessions need to reflect that. And what I mean by that is the more we coach, the less what do the players get? Time touching the ball, right? Time touching the ball. So the more we coach, the less time these players get to touch the ball. So it's critical for us in our session design that can we implement sessions, or can we design sessions that allow our players to touch the ball as many times as they possibly can within an hour and a half of their training session. Why? Because their reality is not our reality, right? So we need to try and manufacture an environment that allows our players to touch the ball as many times as we possibly can. And the fifth one is produce. So with the four things above, we have the recipe for player development. So just like a harvest, right? If you put the right soil down, the rain comes, you water it, what happens is there's growth, right? And it's the same with our players too. So coaches, session design, okay? We then allow players then to develop, okay? At which rate, again, be patient with that. But we know that if we place them in that environment, we're going to yield something that is pretty special, okay? And it's exactly the same when we talk about player development. So going on to the next slide. So these are our stages of development within our club. Especially at the youth age, at the younger age, from U6 to U8, the pre-academy. I use the word obligation a lot, but I think it's important. We as coaches have an obligation, and administrators and parents, okay, to inspire, right? To inspire these kids, and that's what we have to do, especially at the younger age groups, and all the way through, if I'm being completely honest, but definitely at the U6s and U8s. There was a study, there was a George Washington University study that discovered the number one reasons players quit is it's not fun anymore. It's not fun anymore, okay? Now, I think it's critically important that during our session design, we have to make things fun, especially for the U6 and U8, all the way through, if I'm being completely honest, all the way through. They have to have a love for the game. We have to inspire these kids. Okay? And it has to be fun as well, because we see a huge drop-off in sports participation at that U15, U16 age group because it's not fun anymore, okay? And there are other things to do. So if we can inspire them at such a young age where they love the game so much, we're not going to get that drop-off, okay? We're not going to get that drop-off. And as I said, we have an obligation to make it fun there as well. So obviously from U6 to U8, that it's their love for the game, it's learning to play, it's the foundational phase, and everything should be about the technical aspect of the game. We shouldn't be talking about the tactical aspect of things. We shouldn't be talking about, okay, if Johnny has the ball here, I need you to make a third-man run. Okay, those are all tactical elements of the game. It should be fun. It should be about individual, can I beat this player? 1v1s all the time, okay? Twisting and turning, and then lots of praise, lots of encouragement. U9s, U10s, same. Okay, same things. We should be really focused on the individual development of the players. Again, as many 1v1s and 2v2s as we possibly can. Again, love for the game, and again, learning to play. As we get to the U11, U14, same things again, but now learning to compete a little bit. So we go from me versus me. okay? And me versus you, it becomes me and my mate versus you and your mate, okay? So we're talking about challenges now and battles and competitiveness, okay? And that's what we've got there now at the U11 and U14 age. And again, the elements are all technical again, but again, there's a slight element of the tactical side of it as well. Again, because now it's you and your friend. Okay, so we're talking about the group element now. And then from 15s to 19s, the academy. Again, it's learning, obviously learning the game, and then obviously it's now learning to win. Okay, especially a little bit more so learning to win at the 17 level. 17 to 19 levels, more so competing and learning to win, and placing them in an environment where they're constantly competing, and also knowing that, okay, listen, at the next level, this is what the expectation is, this is what we're looking for. And again, obviously the development phase is obviously more like high school, college, and then potentially to the pro environment as well. But more of the tactical and the physical elements of things, with obviously a little bit of the technical side too. So if we go to the next slide, so again, earlier, again, if we look at the slides here in terms of the stages of development, we have that element to inspire, okay, with coaching, so expertise, and then repetition, okay. So getting as many repetitions as you possibly can, you, me versus me, okay. When it comes to the ball, let's put the slide here. Sorry. So again, very early on, it's me versus me, and then it becomes me and you versus you and your mate, okay? And then later on, it becomes us versus them, more of the team element as we go through to team tactics. But again, this is some of the stages of development that we talked about. Again, one thing we talked about in the next slide, we also want to develop our players not only as soccer players that we just talked about, but also as people. We also want to try and develop players who have a growth mindset. I think this is critically important that we try and develop these people. We'll develop players and develop individuals with a growth mindset. And the reason being is, and I've seen it, especially at the collegiate level, is we're bringing athletes through now at the collegiate level who have never experienced failure. Never in their lifetime have they experienced failure. And oftentimes that has to do with parents, has to do with the environment that they've been in. But never, they've been on their best teams, always been on the best teams. The parents have told them that they're brilliant all the time. Their teachers have told them that they're brilliant all the time. And then all of a sudden they come to the next level, okay, where everybody's at that level. And then all of a sudden they don't start, okay? Psychologically, that's crippling for them. Crippling, because they've never experienced failure. I want our players to experience failure, okay? I want our players to fail, okay? I want our players to fail because I want them to understand that failure is okay. Failure is okay because guess what? I can learn from it, okay? And I think as coaches, we have to have an obligation to say, hey, listen, failure is an opportunity for us to grow, okay? And I think that is hugely important, and as I said, for us to mold and shape, okay, one athlete at a time, but also shape a generation, if you like, as well, you know, of players that say, okay, it's going to be challenging, right? And I think we have to, as coaches and administrators and parents too, is we have to tell our children to say, it is challenging, but you can do it, okay? It's challenging, but you can do it. And here are just some of the phrases that I would like for us to really kind of look at and to say, okay, well, here's a growth-minded person and here's a fixed mindset. So a fixed mindset person is the person who says, it's just too hard. I just can't do it. And I think and it's those athletes, if you like, that see a player who is a very gifted player and says, it's just God-given ability. It's just God-given talent. Where we can turn around and say, it's not God-given talent. It's because this particular athlete has worked extremely hard and plays 7 times a week. That's why he's at this level right now. So you can do it, okay? But you have to have the same level of commitment as well. And I think it's important that we try and create people that have that growth mindset, because it's an opportunity for us to shape that next generation as well. Because I think we'd all agree that, you know, we are in a very entitled generation, right? I think we'd all agree with that now. It's that I like to coin the phrase, it's a microwave society, right? We throw it in for 30 seconds and bing, we expect it right there and then. And it's the same with player development too, okay? It takes time, okay? It takes time. You need the right soil, right? You need the right water in order for it to grow, okay? It takes time. So it's extremely important that we challenge those players to say, it's going to take time, you're going to grow, it's a challenge, but you can do it. And for us, it teaches life lessons as well, because if we go through life and always being successful, right? And then the moment we get into the real world, and you graduate college and everything is great, and I had someone speak to me 2 weeks ago, and they said, I'm just giving up. I'm just giving up. What are you giving up on? I'm just giving up about a job. I've applied for 3 jobs and I didn't get one. I'm just sick. And I went, 3 jobs? You've applied for 3 jobs? Try applying for 90. And then you'll get 1 interview. Try that. And it's a part of that entitlement, right? And saying to yourself, hey, listen, it's going to be a challenge. You're going to have to really dig in deep, and you're really going to have to apply for X amount of jobs to get just 1 interview. Okay? Just 1 interview and just 1 opportunity. Okay? But unfortunately, we don't have that right now in this generation. And I think we have an obligation to try and shape the next generation, to try and create individuals who have that growth mindset. Okay, and the last one. Okay, so how can we assist in player development, and who is responsible for player development? Who is responsible? 1, the coach. 2, the parents. 3, administrators in the club. But last but not least, the player. Okay, the player is responsible for his own player development. Now, that for me is the sweet spot. If you can have a player who takes ownership, okay, of his own personal development, that for me is where you'll start to see the growth. If your son or your daughter says, I'm just going outside, okay, and you see him kicking the ball up against the wall, that's somebody taking ownership of their personal development, okay, and their individual development as a player. Because once you take ownership over something, it means more, right? It means more to you, okay, once you take ownership over something. But we as coaches, we need to inspire and encourage those players to be, you know, the best they possibly can be, okay? The absolute best we can possibly be. So we have to support, encourage, okay? Inspire, okay? During our session design as coaches, okay? Or even as parents, right? How great would it be if a parent would turn around and say, hey, Johnny, did you see Mo Salah's skill? And did you see him score that goal? Right? No, I didn't see it. Watch this. Whoa, wow. That's to be inspired about something. I will never forget. I'll never forget the World Cup 1994 here in the US. And I remember vividly Roberto Baggio, who used to play for Italy. He had big long hair. It was kind of like a mullet. Business in the front, party in the back. But unbelievable, blue kit on. I remember it vividly. And I remember him scoring a goal. And I remember it was unbelievable. I remember him going off and celebrating to the fans. And there was 110,000 people at the big house in Michigan, I think it was, or the Giant Stadium. And I was like, wow, what did I do? I was inspired. I was absolutely inspired, right? But it was because my mum was like, watch this. And I just couldn't believe it. So what did I do? Bedroom, ball, blue t-shirt on, outside. Baggio on the ball. that's inspiring people, right? And can we, as coaches, administrators, parents, can we inspire our athletes to go out and do those things and take ownership of their individual development? Okay, because that's where you will start to see real growth. And all of this without pressure. Okay, we can't create environments with pressure. You all know we all work in jobs. Okay, as a child, okay, if we put unwanted pressure, we will not see players develop. Why? Because that pressure, they'll fall out of love with the game. They'll fall out of love with the game if they feel that going to practice is a chore. Okay, I never want our athletes to turn around and say, you got practice today? You ready? Nah, no. Like, there's something wrong there if that happens. Yep, there's something wrong. And we've got to find out what's wrong, because as coaches, we've got to inspire, we've got to encourage them without pressure in an environment. So ultimately, the environment plus coaching plus encouragement and inspiration equals player development. Okay? So we need to understand fundamentally that if we've created a great environment, new complex ESAP, with good session design, with good coaches, with inspiration from family members, from coaches, from individuals, with encouragement, 1, they will love the game, 2, they'll feel inspired, and 3, we'll then start to see player development. That's everything I have. Does anybody have any questions at all?
Hey, Chris.
Travis, you all right?
Yeah, I think you did a great job. I like your presentation.
Thanks, mate.
I don't really have a question. I would just say, would you ever do this presentation in front of the entire club, or like portions of the entire club? Maybe a week or 2 at a time?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think from a player's perspective, and also maybe a parent's perspective, to hear it